by celebration mode. It is just Monday. Uh, Saturday was probably one of my favorite days of all times. I must say, watching just quit after the very first touchdown of the game um, to Pokey Wilson was absolutely amazing. You could watch the sideline just completely deplete after he scored that touchdown. The bomb was thrown. The bomb went off as soon as he crossed the goal line, and I pretty much think from that point, Miami gave up. They were done. They didn't want to play anymore. Did not want to be in the stadium. We truly turned it into Doak South. There was no doubt about it. Trey Benson had one of the best games of his career, if not the best game of his career, and not just at Florida State. That's also including at Oregon. He didn't have much of a career at Oregon. Thought it was awesome that he got to do it in front of his former coach in Mario Cristobal. It was absolutely awesome. But before we get into things, everybody, this podcast is brought to you by Game Day Vodka. If you are 21 years of age or older, you can go and order Game Day Vodka from their website at gamedayvodka.com. They are I think it's nine. Yeah, it's 9 colleges that they're the official vodka for, and 8 NFL teams that they are the official vodka for. So if you're not a Florida State fan and you don't want the garnet and gold bottle, go check and see if your team's one of them that they are the official vodka for. But this is what the garnet and gold one looks like. There is, let's see if they've got it on here. So it's 6 times distilled. It also says it's gluten-free. I don't know if there's any vodka that isn't gluten-free. Don't know much about that. I do know that the way that they distill it is patented. It is a new way of distilling vodka or alcohol, period. And Game Day also has their own bourbon, and they also have their own seltzer. The seltzer is completely different from any seltzer that you've ever had because it's actually a fruit juice with their vodka. It's not a malt liquor like thing. So, anyways, it's really good. Go check them out and try it. We are going to jump just head first into the Florida State Miami game. Here's the crazy part. Other than talking about a whole lot of good from what Florida State did, I'm not exactly sure how to break this game down because there's not much to break down. It is insane to me that we won a game 45-3 and Jordan Travis only had to throw the ball 12 times. This was probably one of the most vanilla game plans I've ever seen. And for us to dominate the way that we did, that means we were just out physical. It looked like we were out talenting that team, head and shoulders above that team. But I do want to start off with Taylor. How wild is it that now for the past 2 or 3 games, I think it's 2, that Fitz is 100 for 100 on field goals and extra points?
Yeah, and you kind of said it just right. I mean, he's 100%. A lot of the Florida State fans were kind of cautious in Fitz's performance. They kind of understood that he was going through some struggles. They didn't think anything was going to go through. They thought Mike Norvell needed to go to a walk-on kicker. And now after the Wake Forest game, he's 5 for 5. He's made all of his extra points. He's done what he needed to do. And you gave him that confidence booster at the end of the first half. You gave him that 41-yarder to make it 31-3 there. And you gave him some opportunities to be successful. You don't put him in high-pressure situations, kind of like I talked about before. I think Fitz has the responsibilities to be able to be a great kicker and be able to get his technique down. And you're seeing that. Once he gets that 3-step technique drop, you're starting to see more confidence building from that. Even James had talked about it before. It's a mental kind of game with kickers, and you have to understand that. You can't just give up on them because really, in actuality, you really don't have anything else on the roster. So what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to put a true freshman walk-on kicker in there, or are you actually trying to stick with your guy and stick it out? Now, earlier on, Mike Norvell was trying to figure out different scenarios. So he was trying to be able to maybe go for it on 4th and 7 at their own 35, at their 35-yard line, because he couldn't really kick a 47, 48-yard field goal. Now you're getting to a situation where you're feeling that little bit more confidence in Ryan Fitzgerald. And I think it's huge because the end of the season, you're going to need him against Syracuse, against Florida, and even against in your bowl game. I think that's very important. And I'm very, very glad to see that Mike Norvell, kind of like the altercation that he had with Deuce Spann, he believes in his players and he understands even when it goes through hard moments like that, Fitzgerald kind of broke through in that situation. And now you're starting to see the fruits of the labor paying off.
Well, I completely agree with. I think Norvell and the staff's doing a great job about now putting him in high pressure situations. Obviously, in the Miami game, there was never a high pressure moment, but it could have been. There was opportunities we could have put Fitz in a bad situation against Georgia Tech, even though we handled them well. We still could have put him in situations that weren't particularly well for a kicker at that moment. So I think that the staff's done a good job. I personally like what Norvell did with Deuce Spann coming off the side. When he came off the field to the sideline, that's coaching. And, a lot of people look at it, you can obviously read his lips of what he's saying. They act like that he was jumping the kid, and he wasn't. He was telling him that we don't do that. Don't do that. It's not. And I think that the kid just needed a minute. Maybe he didn't want to be hit as soon as he got off of the field. Give him a second to process what he just did. He's probably beating himself up pretty good already. And then the head coaches jumped on him, and then you got other teammates grabbing him and stuff to that nature. I can see the frustration. The great part was Norvell didn't allow that to stop the conversation. He continued the conversation to make sure that Deuce was calm, and he calmed down, and then put him right back out on the next series.
And I will say this too, because Jermaine Johnson had posted about it on Twitter. He posted the same comment, just saying that a lesson I'm grateful for learning in a similar situation in practice. What is your response when things don't go your way? You're a better player and a person when you make sure your response never succumbs to your emotions negatively. So when you look at that and you understand that a first-round draft pick is basically telling you that he had a similar situation in that regard, he understands that Coach Norvell is that kind of coach for him. I think that sets a message to some of these transfers that are coming in for this upcoming season, and also the recruits. So it doesn't do anything harm. You're seeing, even when it's 38-3, he is getting after Deuce Spann, understanding that he has to control his emotions. And what did he do when he come right back out? He gave him a play right back through with the reverse sweep. I think that was really important to get him back in the game plan, get him focused, get him readjusted. And I think that was really important for this culture of Florida State going forward there.
Absolutely. Chip, what was your thoughts on the defensive play? I mean, you don't have to go into great detail. You can if you want, but what was your outlook on how the defense played?
It was lights out. The push up front was by far the best we've seen all season. Nobody Miami threw out there at quarterback could handle the rush, had time to really go through their progressions. Of course, the Hurricane showed pretty much all year they don't have a receiver worth going through the progressions. But they disrupted everything that Miami tried to throw at us. And then plus our DBs, our defensive backfield played by far, hands down, the best game they've played all year. So hat off to our DC, Coach Fuller. That was amazing. You couldn't ask for a better outcome and showing than what the defense showed out for that game.
Agreed. James, I know that you did a watch party at your cigar lounge. I saw you cutting up pretty good on. I guess there was about 10 minutes left in the third quarter when you went live. What was your favorite part of the game?
I will say this, and I think James is going to probably allude to that Jamie Robinson with Ja'Cory Brown, kind of taking him to the ground and kind of showing what that Miami-Florida State rivalry is all about. I think that really showcases just the importance of, even when Florida State is up big in a contest, they still kind of assert their dominance. And that's what Coach Norwell talked about at the halftime report. He talked about how he just wanted to dominate and destroy and get their will out of this game. And I think you understood that.
Well, for years, we've seen that poster of a picture of Marvin Jones, Shade Tree, laying out the Miami receiver. This can now replace that because Jamie gave him a "Who's your daddy" moment.
Yeah, and I'm very impressed with Ja'Cory Brown. I think he did some nice things. I don't want to harp on the kid too much because I do think he is a viable running threat. He completed his first pass on Saturday, while it was Restrepo that took a helicopter spin of a third down conversion there to pick it up, but he did show some fight in there. Now, the fumble with Jared Verse picking it up there at the end was not a good look after the Jamie Robinson situation there, but just overall, I think Florida State really asserted their dominance against a quarterback that didn't really feel too comfortable in the passing lane so far, and I think that was really important for Florida State to take advantage there.
Do you feel like that Miami wasn't comfortable with passing the ball due to the quarterback, or due that Miami just can't get separation on the outside or with wide receivers, period?
Well, I think Restrepo was the guy they thought was going to be really efficient there. But once you started seeing, and you didn't even hear Will Mallory's name come up in the conversation in that game. I mean, Colby Young, I think, had a catch, maybe 2 catches. It wasn't anything special. So, I mean, their weapons are just completely taken out. And when you saw a non-healthy Tyler Van Dyke literally hurt his throwing shoulder again when it was non-contact like that, he wasn't ready to be put out there. And that was kind of the concern I thought going in. I thought there was going to be a situation where Florida State was going to have to defend against that. That's why I thought Miami was going to be able to score 17 points. I thought there was going to be some kind of semblance of an offense, and there was not. So we'll definitely see. But, I mean, overall, you saw what Jake Garcia did. Adam Fuller actually utilized a zone defense with Greedy Vance. I was kind of impressed and just kind of out there whenever they utilize that. So at least they know how to use something other than man at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all seen the quote or the comments from Mario Cristobal, and I'm assuming this is from today. But Cristobal on missed tackles issues against FSU, he said tackling is technique and physicality. Some guys showed up really, really well, and some guys just did not. This is one of our running backs at Oregon, just to put in perspective of the caliber of teams we are used to building. Tackling and physicality is a mentality. So he's trying to take credit for our running back, not his used to be running back, but our running back, on being able to cause other teams to not be able to tackle him and stuff of that nature. If I'm not mistaken, Trey Benson had 22 yards total under Mario Cristobal, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth string running back. His fourth string running back at Oregon. And it's just amazing. I'll give Miami people this. They're spin masters. If you remember last year, 4th and 14, Jordan Travis does very well, shows us exactly why the NIL is important and why Florida State can compete. And they go and they make 4th and 14 shirts saying if it wasn't for this, they wouldn't have been able to get Mario Cristobal. The beautiful thing about receipts is everybody's pulling up about how this is supposed to be a 10-win team. They're supposed to go to the ACC championship. They're supposed to do all these different things. Well, they spin everything. And this is what, and I apologize because it's only one way I can really describe Mario Diaz is this line-ass Cuban spins everything to his defense. I mean, talks about the physicality. He talks about like I made this guy. I'm proud of this guy beating my behind. Yet that's not one of the first calls you made when you got to Miami, knowing you could use a running back like that. You didn't do anything. You didn't even attempt to try to get that guy. And the person who I really wish would have balled out a little bit more, it just didn't. His number just wasn't called like that. Would be Micah Pittman, because Micah Pittman told everybody who Mario was. He said they're going to try to run the ball. They can't throw it. The reason why I'm leaving is because I want to get the ball. And that's why he left. So it's just, I just take your L. I hate when people do those kind of things.
Yeah, well, they got to twist it into, we're using their ammunition to beat them, stuff to that nature. Here's something I want to bring up. I don't remember who I was talking to on the phone about this earlier, but what Miami's going through right now, and I don't mean almost an exact form. We've seen this before. Unfortunately, it was Florida State that's seen it. We lose Jimbo Fisher. We go out and hire this Oregon head coach. This Oregon head coach is Willie Taggart. He had a losing record everywhere else. He was doing decent at Oregon because of Oregon's who they play. You are able to recruit decent in Oregon because they absolutely have every facility that you would possibly need, and they have like 700 combinations of uniforms. There are things that attract players to go to Oregon. So we go and do it. And it doesn't work out. We don't win a lot of games. He's fired within a year and a half. Now, you should learn off of someone else's mistakes, in my opinion. Mario Cristobal has a losing record as a head coach. I don't know if he does now. I'm sure he does, seeing how they've only won 4 games. But he's not a good coach. He has a very poor record as a head coach. He was the head coach at Oregon and was winning at Oregon for the past 4 to 5 seasons. Oregon's caliber of play, who they play, is not very well. He got beat by Utah twice in the same year. Miami hires him because he's a Miami guy. Now, there's one thing we can say about Willie Taggart. He absolutely loved and still loves Florida State University. There's no doubt about it. Mario Cristobal went to Miami as a player, as a student athlete, only because they loved the university and only because they were there. Doesn't mean that they're going to be the right guy for the job. So I thought Miami would be a little bit smarter by seeing that we've already done this. But I hope they keep Mario for 10 plus years, and I hope he keeps producing exactly what's being produced on the field right now. Can he recruit? Yes. But if you can't develop, I don't know what good you're going to get. You're going to have a bunch of high school kids that are at their ceiling because they're not growing in any way, shape, or form. So you're going to have a bunch of high school kids that are on a extremely plain Jane offense that runs the ball 80% of the time. And it's just going to look – this is what it's going to look like for Miami, I think. Like, a lot of people think, okay, let's fire Josh Gaddis or whatever his name is and get a new offensive coordinator. I don't think people realize just how much control Mario Cristobal has over that offense. It doesn't matter what offensive coordinator you have. Mario Cristobal is going to run the ball first. It is going to be a very plain game plan. It's not going to – you're not going to see something crazy no matter what offensive coordinator they go and hire. So until Mario Cristobal can get out of his own way, which I don't see that happen, I think he's a stubborn head coach, you're going to continue to see exactly what you're seeing. He did it at Oregon. He could not beat Utah the first time running the ball. And in the second game, he knew that they could stop him, and he continued to do nothing but run the ball and beat a dead horse and lose that game again. So what are y'all's thoughts on Florida State's ability? Because y'all saw how chippy Miami was trying to make it when they were getting their asses beat. Like, they wanted to get a reaction out of Florida State athletes. They wanted them to start pushing and shoving and mouthing off. I was pretty impressed with the discipline of our guys. James, what were your thoughts as far as discipline goes for our guys?
I was very impressed. Very few penalties in general. When we have had some, even when we beat down Georgia Tech, a ton of penalties. That this past 4-game stretch outside of Clemson is very, very undisciplined. But seeing how they did against that, knowing the emotions of this game, it kind of just shows where Mike Norvell actually has this team in regards to listening to him. It's one thing to get your personal fouls like every now and then, like a targeting or something like that, a false start, but like to go and have somebody put like what they did to CJ Campbell. I can't remember his name, but he was a top. Tyreek Stevenson. Him coming to talking trash, dude, you're down. You're down 35-3 at this point, or something like that. Just shut up and jog back to your huddle. No response is sometimes the best response. then you go out and you just score a touchdown on it behind the next play. So I think that's kind of where you got it. And it goes down to I hate culture when it comes to saying from a coach's perspective, but culture of a fan base. A fan base that takes pride in, oh, we're not going to win the game on the field, but we'll win it in the stands. A fan base that takes pride in stuff that you should not really, as an adult, you should not take pride in. We can be tough. We could not be punks, but it's at a certain point, we're coming to be entertained. And this is what the fan base prides as manhood, prides as being physically dominant. It's stuck, as I was telling a guy, if you listen to my live who was there at my cigar lounge, you guys are stuck in the 80s. It's not the 80s anymore, where it's a new brand of ball. It's a new brand of way we got to live our lives. You go out there and play physical. Bama doesn't have to physically talk trash or be something to somebody. You would think that Mario would know that, having been under Saban for a little while. But it's I'm just proud of it because it got us to a situation where we didn't take ourselves out of the game, and we were able to just go out there physically whip some butt.
Taylor, question. Look, so it was the situation where I want to say Robert Scott had just got a false start penalty on him, or maybe it was a holding call. And you saw him sitting there hitting his chest and tapping his helmet like, my bad, guys, etc. I don't know if people paid attention to this, but the very next play after this penalty was called, he made one of the best blocks I think Robert Scott's made at Florida State. On this outside run it was a design run for Jordan Travis. And everybody on that offensive line and wide receivers that were, in vicinity to after the play had happened, all fist bump Robert Scott. The unity, the brotherhood that was shown from Florida State, what are your thoughts and what do you feel that means for this team going forward?
It's so much growth, especially with a guy like Robert Scott, who's been a little bit more inconsistent this year. Now, with the penalties and stuff like that, also Dylan Gibbons is the same way. He's been a little more inconsistent, but they don't really have a whole lot of depth. They're trying to get in guys like Julian Armella and Jalen Early and younger guys like that. But with the injuries to, even a Bless Harris that you thought was going to be a starter, you had Caden Lyles that you thought was going to be a quality reserve. There was just a lot of pieces that were missing. And now you're seeing that offensive line starting to gel together. You're seeing the consistency all there. And you're seeing that brotherhood that's supposed to be there from the time being. And you haven't seen that in past Florida State teams. Now that we're bowl eligible in 6-3, we're getting a little bit more confidence in each other. You're seeing the guys fight for one another. And I even had a interview with CJ Campbell. It was a Q&A that I had with him because I was talking about his touchdowns, performances, and everything like that. And he had some interesting thoughts. I mean, there was a lot of great things that were going on. And he just kind of talked about how the guys were kind of looking to response and they fight for one another. So if anybody wants to be successful in this team, they want everyone to be successful. And it's not just a me kind of thing. It's a we at the end of the day. And I think that's something that was missing for Florida State these past couple of years. And I think you're finally starting to see it. So I think it's really just a big thing that he's getting more consistent. His draft stock's going up a little bit higher now. And you're starting seeing the fruits of the labor coming through. So I'm really excited for that group and for all these players that are kind of getting involved and getting that brotherhood together.
So, Chip, there was a comment there was a reporter that asked a question. They asked Mario. A lot of she said that a lot of the fans, Miami fans, were upset because it was at the time 38-3. And Florida State went ahead and punched it in again, put another touchdown up on the board, and felt like we were running the score up. And Mario said that he doesn't worry about things like that. It's our job to score as far as us, and it's their job to stop us. And maybe one day, or not maybe, one day we'll switch shoes in that situation. Do you feel like we were just trying to run the score up and we were trying to decimate them further than we already were? Because I don't personally believe that. So what are your thoughts?
No, we ran the ball, 90% of the time when the second unit was in there. If, they could not stop it. You still got to go out there and run your offense, except, Norvell did, not decide not to throw the ball. I know the first series he threw the ball with 3 or 4 times with with the backup in there, but after that, it was just straight handoffs to CJ Campbell, and CJ did his job. It's not our fault. Miami's defense could not stop us.
Let me add to this too and put a little context into this. It was 4th and 4 and Miami 26. I mean, it wasn't a gimme field goal at that end of the. I mean, it was a 43-yard field goal, and you've seen Ryan Fitzgerald in between 40 and 49 yards. It's not automatic at that point. Why would you put Ryan Fitzgerald in that kind of situation? You run those simple, and I think it was a curl route they had to Brian Courtney. He broke a couple of tackles and got like a 10 or a 15-yard gain there. That's the first action that we've seen from Brian Courtney. So if you're not able to really tackle Brian Courtney, who's been really a special teams kind of guy so far in his career, and you're having a backup quarterback in Tate Rodemaker that's throwing the ball to him, if you can't stop that, I don't know what else you want them to do in that situation. I get now if it was 4th and 15 at the 20, I mean, okay, I get you might have to kick a field goal and just go about your day, but this is a situation where I don't think this was running up the score, nor was this. If it was, I mean, good on Florida State. You basically had Miami fans that were talking about 52-10 from 2 years ago, and now they're finally getting the fruits of their labor back. So I just don't understand that whole aspect of running up the score. And I think it was kind of a petty comment by Mario Cristobal as well, with the whole situation about we'll get you back in a couple of years or whatever he said. I mean, that's just kind of a situation where you just don't say that as a head coach in that situation.
Well, James,
I'm sorry, they won't, because they've got the second most talent per their roster in the ACC right now. And to quote a great football coach, he's won numerous national championships and he's won numerous Super Bowls. It's not my number twos work just as hard as my number ones. I'm going to run my offense with my twos, and it's your job to stop them. And it was what made the Miami Notre Dame game kind of a rivalry when they did the Catholics versus the Convicts. And it was just great. 49 rushing attempts to 16 passing attempts by Florida State. 33 rushing attempts to, I believe, around 13. No, it might be a little bit more passing attempts by the University of Miami. If it's running up the score, running the ball, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's just it's not my fault. That's just a terrible way to get you behind one. They just
running the same counter. I think out of those running attempts, they had like 30 counters out of that. So, I mean, it wasn't like they were doing something out of the ordinary. They were running the same counter over and over and over again, and Kevin still couldn't stop it.
What I was going to ask, which James pretty much just answered, but think about asking your number twos that are, starving for playtime to come out and ask them not to compete is absolutely insanity. Like any and everyone that brings in the number twos, you want to see them compete. You want to see the fire from those guys as much as you saw it from the number one guys. So it's insane to me that anybody even went to that, like that we're trying to run the score up. And I'm going to be honest with you. Be lucky that I'm not the head coach, because I'd have tried to score 70 on their ass and continued to push, because Miami has talked that shit for 2 years since they beat us 52-10. Even when they didn't beat us, they were thanking us for beating them so they could get rid of the other dipshit, whatever his name is, Manny Diaz. So they were thanking us last year for 4th and 14. Now this year, we're running the score up on them, and we're being non-classy. And our fans, look, the thing that's killing me is that there's Miami fans on Twitter right now saying that Florida State fans were being obnoxious and we weren't being classy and all of this BS. I've talked to like Coach Coop, which is a guy that does a Miami YouTube channel. I've talked to multiple Miami people that I can somewhat talk to. And all of them said they sat right next to a Florida State fan and continuously told them it's going to get better for you guys. Don't lose hope in your team. Kind of giving them words of encouragement where they didn't expect it. They thought when when the Florida State fans were going to turn to him. It was going to be talking a bunch of BS, which is what I would have been doing. But instead, Florida State fans were speaking words of encouragement. Don't give up on your university. Don't give up on your coaches or this team. We know what it feels like. We've been there. But I mean, y'all did it to us in 2020. Y'all went and beat us 52-10. Did we complain about people running the score up? Not to my knowledge.
And here's the thing. Florida State was really aggressive in running the football, keeping everything simplified in what they do. I even talked to James about this in a previous post that I had. They ran the ball with the fullback on an I formation at that point. And this is a situation where they pounded the rock. They said, all right, Miami, can you stop us? They didn't do it. You saw the result that come from that game. I mean, this was a complete domination from start to finish. You got a little worried in Florida State's first drive when they come out there and they had the third down. It was an incomplete pass, but had the defensive pass interference there, allowed Florida State to get a 1st and 10, and you saw what happened. It just from then on, it was just kind of a complete dominance. And Mike Norvell said, you know what? If you want to stop us, go ahead, but you're not going to. And it's just a shorthanded Miami team that just didn't have anything going for it. We expected that. I thought their offense was going to score a little bit more, but just overall, it's just a game you should have won, and you did win by a lot.
Shorthanded is a lot of the weaknesses that Miami has. If it's like when I went on the show and I said, guys, let's talk tangible. I want tangible, measurable things that you believe that you're just better than us at. And if you looked at what Miami's weakness for the last 2 seasons have been, under Mario and under Manny, they've been extremely thin at D tackle. They've had issues there. So then you had a guy, one of your better ones, transfer out. You brought in Daryl Jackson from Maryland, but you still are relatively weak there. Defensive end position, you got some talent there, but when the Chance Williams goes down, and you got to replace him with a very talented Nigel Lee Kelly and other guys like that who are also banged up, you were already thin there, and you didn't overhaul it. You didn't do your offensive line. As much as people have picked about Florida State's offensive line the last 4 or 5 years, statistically speaking, if you go look at the University of Miami and you go look at the University of Florida's offensive lines, much better recruiting, similar results. You didn't go overhaul like what guys did in the offseason, when everybody picked on Mike about going into the transfer portal, doing these things, which is ironic because when Manny went into the transfer portal, you called yourself Portal Combat, Portal Boys. It's just sickening. It's not fun. It's like you're either going to argue or you're not. But here's where it comes down to. And I remember this because I love good, intelligent discourse. I have no problem with analytics. I have no problem with a lot of stuff, but I also know this game, having played it. And I remember last year, one of the complaints was we cannot run the ball in loaded boxes. And me and another fullback both said, the hell you can't. What is goal line? Goal line defense is literally putting 11 in the box. You can always run the numbers. And what we saw against Miami, and I remember it was Brendan Sinone arguing me to his blue in the face. Bud Elliott arguing me to the blue in the face. And I'm like, you guys are arguing with the guy who has ran against loaded boxes. Do you understand how crazy you sound right now? So what did we do? We ran against a loaded box. Outside of one picture, I got to send it to you, Chris, so that you can go post this. I'm going to send it to you too, Ted, because this is the world's got to see this picture. And there's not a man I respect in this world more than Kevin Steele when it comes to defense. But I need to know what Kevin was thinking here. The best way to describe it is they ran a 3-down front with a nose, a true nose. So that's a 0 for people who don't understand. Head up with the center. And basically 2-9 techniques. So that means you literally have 2 gaps. Now, they have one linebacker in between to fill those 2 gaps, and they've got somebody loaded up on the outside of the 9 technique. I have no idea. I'm guessing that's to stop the counter, to go wide or the stretch. But what you're doing is, okay, I'm going to step this way. I'm going to attack this side. So now it's like a hot knife through butter. So when they were loading the box, they were loading the box kind of funky or freaky. And they just didn't want no parts. It was great body shots. If you like boxing, that's what it looked like. And our guys just physically whoop somebody. And you hope that you can build on that mentality, take it to Syracuse, take it to Louisiana Lafayette, take it to Florida, and whoever we play in the bowl, because this is what they got to do now. It's not enough to just win. You got to start taking this and start building upon this so that this becomes the new attitude. Because if this would have been the attitude against Clemson, you would have made DJ Ukulele play like what he played last week against Notre Dame. If you would have played like this against NC State, you beat NC State. You play like this against Wake Forest, you beat Wake Forest. I don't care what you think of Miami's talent. I'm talking about the mentality and the way that they attack these guys, and we're just physically dominant and bullied them. Now, I don't want to that's going to be the next phase in judging the climb. It's not because again, if you don't, I love Mike, but the next phase is, can we get our guys to consistently be badasses? And that's when we'll know we're great.
Agreed. Chip, we've got 3 games left for the season. We're not going to go with Louisiana Lafayette here. 3 games left for the season. We're not going to go with Louisiana Lafayette here, so I'm going to put it down to the last 2. We have to go to Syracuse. We have to play in the Dome against Syracuse, who will probably be without their quarterback Strader. And we do have the Florida Gators coming to Doak. Which game's tougher and why?
Honestly, the Florida game now scares me after seeing them kind of put it all together and actually have a really good showing. Anthony Richardson, I guess he might have got his eyes fixed and stopped throwing to the other team, and he ran that offense the way it's designed. He looked polished in that game, and Syracuse being without their quarterback, that's the first I've heard of it, and that bodes well for us. And if, like James said, if we come out playing like the way we against Miami, I don't think there's a team out there that can beat us.
Agreed. Taylor, Azariah Thomas pulls off an amazing interception against Miami to pretty much put the game away. I mean, it was over, but seeing him make that catch, because it wasn't an easy catch, that was a difficult catch he made. What does that mean for the young guys that are on the team? And same question that I had for Chip to follow that.
Yeah, I will say this. Azariah Thomas is a guy that needed a little bit more confidence. They slowly integrated him into the game plan. You're seeing more consistency. You're seeing his communication getting up. And that defensive backfield, as I alluded to before, is not the strength of this team. I think there are a lot of solid guys in the rotation. I just don't know if they have a dominant corner in that rotation just yet. But I do think he can be one of those guys. Same thing with Sam McCall. We had that incident earlier with Sam McCall, posted that he was entering the transfer portal, deleted that, and now we're kind of figuring out what's going on in that situation. Mike Norvell talked about the commitment in the wide receiver room and talking about even when your number is not called. And in the age of college football nowadays, you're seeing a lot of these kids transferring in and out. You're seeing them going for greener pastures when their time is not really there yet. And you have to understand as a true freshman that everything doesn't really go your way in your first year. Bryant McFadden was talking about this before in an interview with him, talked about how he didn't even get his opportunity at Florida State until his junior season. It just kind of sometimes goes that way. I mean, it's not all, rosy, kind of flowery kind of roads there. I think he really has to understand that. And Sam McCall, I know, is going to do a tremendous job there. And I think AZ and McCall together, I think, are going to be something special at Florida State. I just think it's going to have to take time to go through that rotation a little bit more. But I'm super excited about AZ and his development as he goes through the rest of the season.
Follow up the question that I had with Chip as far as who you think the tougher game is, Syracuse or Florida?
Personally, I think this is a situation where without Schrader, I think Dino Babers actually followed up and said in one of his press conferences that it wasn't a head injury. That was the main concern. I do believe that it is a concussion head injury situation there. I just don't think he's pointing it out just yet. I do think that Schrader is kind of questionable for this game. They were kind of getting him close to this contest. I did predict the Syracuse loss earlier in the season. I thought this would be a tough 4-game stretch for them. You're seeing that now. It's a 3-game losing streak at this point. Syracuse kind of lost his luster. I think it's a better and kind of more difficult path for the Florida game because Del Rio is not a good quarterback for Syracuse. I don't think he's anything to put anything behind it. Sean Tucker is a very, very good running back, but that defense has a little bit of problems of its own. It's an aggressive pass rush, but it has no cornerbacks. I just think there's a lot better teams out there than Syracuse in the ACC, and you saw that with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's an average ACC team. And you're seeing Florida. They won against Texas A&M. They had 29 players out with the flu and suspensions and all the problems they're going through right now. I don't really think that was a great win for them. I think Anthony Richardson actually showed a little bit in the passing game, but he doesn't scare me as a quarterback. Like I said, I just think there's a lot of limitations. If I had to choose one and you had to just twist my arm behind my back and tell me I had to choose somebody, it would have to be Florida right now. But, I mean, if Syracuse had a healthier Schrader, I would definitely choose that could be a harder game.
James, the beautiful coming off the block, I know the name of the play, and for some reason it slipped in my mind, but our fullback comes off of a block.
Spotted two-eye banana is what they made is on what's called made it popular.
Did you ever yourself have that play at Florida State where you came off a block and caught a pass from a QB?
Yeah, actually, if you go and you look at Florida State versus Miami 2 in the Orange Bowl in 2003, he ends up Chris Rick throws it to Matt Hines, the tight end, but I'm the first read. Luckily, he was in there. I was a little mad because if I'm open, you're supposed to throw me the ball. Like, that's how this works. But I also against North Carolina State my sophomore year, same play. Go up, you go up there. If nobody comes, you really just give a pause, 1001, 1002, make them feel you're in the pass game, slow delay, quick dump off. You kind of hit the angle. But when I saw him do it, I was like, all right, well, I critiqued him because that's my job. I feel like we got to get better. He got stalled on the ISO. He didn't run his feet. But I'm like, well, cool. They're anticipating this, play action off of it. So hit the play action. The running back sold it, did what he was supposed to do. Here, pretend to block, dumped off, perfect catch. Big Pad Chad got one of those too, I believe, in the national championship. It's a staple. It's a great way to get the fullback involved. And I really like DJ Lundy. If I want DJ Lundy's people, I need your people to reach out for you. We will work something out, because I just really like the way you're playing this position, man. It gets me excited to see them give you the damn ball.
I will say this. I think Florida State set a really, really good standard for four-star linebacker Blake Nicholson, who also plays tailback at his high school. I think that really sent a message to him and said, you know what? This can be you in this offense. And Mike Norvell talked about it. He loves the fullback position. I think this is a situation now where all the fans were complaining about all the goal line offense being weird. And, there was just a lot of different things in play calling and everything like that. But he simplified this game plan for this Miami game. And I think you really saw it. And I think it's kind of the fruits of the labor right now that you're understanding that Florida State is starting to be a goal line team and a red zone offense that can be dangerous if it allows it. And it doesn't get cute with everything.
Chip, there was this particular wide receiver only had 2 catches in the game for 22 yards. But he made one specific catch that, in my opinion, was a difficult catch. Very strong hands had to happen for him to hold on to this ball. But Johnny Wilson, I'm sure you know which pass play I'm talking about, where he caught it where he was going out of bounds. But what type of focus, and is it more impressive from the standpoint of the receiver catching it, or was it more impressive that J-Trav put that ball, right on the money where no one else could get to it? In your opinion,
it's impressive on both ends, from the quarterback and the receiver. The receiver making sure he looks the ball in and make sure he stays in bound. And J-Trav, that's just practice. To know exactly what spots to put the ball in when the DB is playing up close or playing off.
I will ask this too, and I know Chip is a big fan of CJ Campbell, and I know that Chris is also a big fan of Rodney Hill. You're seeing that CJ Campbell is getting a little bit more expanded role as he came through his injury, coming off that Georgia Tech game where he scored his first touchdown, turned over, scored against Miami, and now he's appeared in 2 games this season. You see Rodney Hill has appeared in 3 games this season. His last game was against Georgia Tech. And you know about the redshirt rule with the 4 games, you're being able to go there. Does that allow CJ Campbell to come in and step in as that kind of role in the 4th running back in that 4-headed, 5-headed monster type deal instead of burning Rodney Hill's red shirt? Do you think that really helps in that regard, or do you think it really doesn't matter and it's just going to have to play itself out as it goes?
Well, I think they're wanting, Rodney's last game to probably be the Louisiana Lafayette, and then let him watch the rest of the year while CJ can possibly get mop-up duty in these last 3 games also. But I look for both of them to play in the Louisiana Lafayette.
My personal opinion, I would think that you definitely have to save Rodney Hill's red shirt. You don't want to lose that. And the young man's had, like I said, when he ran against Georgia Tech, that he is very similar in running style to Trey Benson, in my opinion. He's not nearly the size yet, but man, he runs extremely hard. What James talks about all the time, driving your feet. That kid never stops. I mean, his feet are always moving. He is always pushing forward. I mean, I'm extremely excited. Like, guys, I want to win 9 or 10 games this year, with a bowl win being 10. But I'm so excited to see next year, to see the Rodney Hills, to see the IO. I don't want to say his last name wrong, but Toaface, or however you say his last name. But and then will we see? Here's my question: do y'all think we see Aaron Hester at all next year?
It's hard to say because you've got Patrick Payton, who I think you've got a superstar on your hands with that. I think you kind of see where that goes, and you kind of, I think he's still going to be a rotational piece if he gains a little bit more weight. But I just don't – there's so much talent there on the defensive end spot that I really don't know where you put him. I mean, I even think George Wilson can be a good guy, but I mean, he's got to develop and get more weight. Byron Turner, another guy. I mean, I think there's some guys on this team that really haven't got their opportunities yet. It's just because that defensive end room is just so talented right now that you're trying to find pieces and you're trying to find guys to come in situations and sub packages. I think that's kind of important to kind of relay there.
James, let's say that I don't even know what Lundy is right now. Is he a sophomore?
I believe he's a sophomore.
Well, let's say that we lose Lundy. Even not next year, even the year after. Let's say that he goes on. Who do we pull in as a fullback? Seeing how Mike loves fullbacks, and you see that we utilize a fullback finally. Who is that guy? Because I have one in mind. I'm just wondering James, what your thought is on who you think would be a good fit.
When you look at this, I guess on the team, I really don't. Not OJ Grant, even though I like his number. But I think what you got to do is this: a fullback is nothing more than an undersized tight end. So, like, go get you this is what I would be doing if I were Florida State. I'm recruiting my guys. A boy from from Long Beach, our big tight end, the Cali boy. I'm getting my 6'6" guy. I'm getting my tall guy. I'm going to get my big body that looks like a left tackle dang near. And then I'm going to get my Wyatt Rector type guy. Maybe put a little bit more weight on the Wyatt. I don't think Wyatt could play the fullback position. He's just not thick enough for he was a quarterback. So I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying at a certain point, you got to be a little tougher than that. But I think you could find one of those guys in high school. I think, to be honest with you, the best utility player you probably have is the young man from, I believe it's from South Carolina or North Carolina, the tight end that we just brought in this class. He's not as tall, but That's what I would do. But so that you don't have to go away from it and you don't have to take away practice time. It's literally just a piece of your offense that is just a nice wrinkle. You can run multiple sets with it. But I really think if it were me, and we're bringing in more linebackers, I would try to figure out how to make DJ Lundy more of that hybrid tight end now because it's effective. He can catch. He's explosive enough to be able to get you, some good yardage when you need it. He's obviously pretty good running his feet. Like, just give him more reps. I think that's something that when we get into these short yardage situations, not just goal line, we get cute on short yardage too. We don't have to get as cute anymore. And when just listening to Nick Saban a few weeks ago talk about what what is he talking about? What Tennessee did to him when they put a fullback in the backfield and they lined up in under center and the guys didn't know what to do. It's cool to spread them out, but I think it's also cool to go punch people in the mouth now.
Absolutely. Taylor, I got a question. What'd you think about my punt prediction?
I like it. I think that was kind of the star of the show. I mean, you punt twice inside the 5 at that point. You're recovering 2 inside the 3, and you force Miami to really get uncomfortable back there. And you force them to punt it away to a guy in Micah Pittman who returns and is an efficient punt returner. Unfortunately, I think Miami had a 35-yard punt there on the right sideline that didn't go very far. So, like I said, Florida State was just toying with them, playing field position, and you saw that. And really, when you look at it, I mean, Florida State didn't really have to do a whole lot. They didn't have to punt. I mean, they were at the 40 when they punted twice. I mean, it's just kind of a situation where I thought Florida State played its cards very well in this.
Yeah, I said a minimum of 2 and the maximum of 4. They punted 3 times. I had a fan write me and said he should have took my predictions and bet the house on them. As far as he said, there was one of these websites. I don't know if it's FanDuel or which one, but you could actually bet on how many times a team was going to punt in a game. And he could.
If I went to the casino with that would be very impressive.
Yeah,
you got money to waste.
He was like, I have no idea how you came up with us punting from 2 to 4 times and it be 3, but he said that if I have any more predictions like that, and I'm as confident as I was in this one, to please let him know. Look, I can't sit here and say I blame you 3 for me giving them 17 points because y'all had me convinced that they were going to score 17 points. Like all 3 of y'all picked 17 points. I'm like, damn, I'm not going to say the crazy number that I was going to say. Oh, you said 13.
Yeah, me and James said 17. So, yeah.
Well, y'all gave them way more than I did because I literally thought I had 2 score predictions in mind. The first one was with Tyler Van Dyke playing, which was the score prediction I threw out. I thought they'd score 17 points if he played. The other score prediction was he didn't play at all, and it was 44-6 or 9. I don't remember which one I picked. I wrote it down somewhere, but much less than 17 points, I should add. But I had a fan. We put out a score prediction thing every week. I don't know how the hell this guy did it. I don't know if he was drunk when he did it or if he really thought this out. But he said the score was going to be 45-3. And he picked it right on the money. I don't know how he did it. I don't know if it was a great guess or if he literally just analyzed the hell out of both teams and said this is going to be the score. But either way, he got it right. What we're going to be doing Thursday is obviously talking about this Syracuse game. We're obviously going to get into depth about, hopefully we know more about Schrader, whether he's going to play or not. I highly doubt we know for sure because they're not going to release that information. But I will ask this question because, Taylor talked about it a little bit, but the elephant in the room is definitely Sam McCall's post today. Sam McCall posted on Twitter or Instagram one that he was going to be entering the transfer portal at the end of the season. And then he came back and corrected it with he made this decision out of emotion. I want to know what y'all's thoughts are. Do you feel like it's very, probable that he will end up checking out and transferring, or do you think the coaching staff or whomever it was, it has to be the coaching staff, clarified and got him straight to where he feels more comfortable now? What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I'll be pretty brief on this because I know we don't have a lot of time, but just young kids had a big role in high school, kind of going to a situation where you're not really having a huge role right now as a true freshman. I think you just have to kind of take a step back, understand the emotions kind of come with that as well. And just think that this is a guy that's going to be special for Florida State if he decides to stay, and definitely wish him the best, whatever he decides to do.
Yeah, we've got.
Honestly, I can tell you, is James and I can probably be thankful that social media wasn't around when we were playing college ball. But it's just a kid that went from being a big fish in a little pond to now he's a, I'm still gonna call him a big fish because you get a scholarship to Florida State, you're not a so-so player. It's just my advice to him, and I know James probably told him, just keep grinding. I hope he comes back because I believe that he could be a very, very big asset for us.
I think he's good. I mean, the reality is, this is how it happens. You're going to have to commit somewhere, and you're going to have to out earn somebody. So that's basically what it is. But I know as a freshman, we're in a microwave society. It's always been like this, though. And I think fans got to step back and stop bashing these kids. I played with a ton of guys who transferred. I was explaining to people about this guy named Thomas Clayton, who ended up going to the San Francisco 49ers. He transferred from Florida State to Kansas State. I didn't even know if you could do the transfer portal. All it's doing is making you aware of what's going on. It's us, the consumer, that's making this weirder than what it really is. And we're getting in kids' ears. And what he has to do is tune everybody out and realize that nobody can go through this process but him. I hope the best for him. I hope he gets some wise counsel, but I would love to see him stick it out, grind, and do his best. But at the end of the day, he's got to do what's best for him. You don't go to Florida State to become a Rhodes Scholar, except for Myron. You go there to go to the NFL. You can't go to the NFL if you're not playing, but you can't go there also if you don't want to work hard. So,
absolutely. Well, guys, I appreciate everybody coming on again. We'll be back Thursday night. Y'all hit me up and let me know what night y'all can do a Twitter space. I've got some Twitter fans that are asking for us to please do one again. They would love to ask all of us some questions. So I think they enjoy being able to interact with us talking, not just a message or a question in that form. So y'all let me know, hit me up when we can do one, and I'll update all the fans when we can do one. If y'all don't mind falling off, I got 3 minutes to finish, and appreciate y'all. It's a great weekend. Knowles handled business with the Miami Candy Canes. So y'all have a good one. First off, everybody that's commented, don't worry about me. Nothing, no one or any comments harmed me. It mainly was some idiots that might have been drunk, might not have been. They might just be idiots. They made death threats toward me. It's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. I love each and every one of you too. I appreciate all the prayers for protection. God's got me, my family's got me, and I do a pretty good job of taking care of myself as well. But I do appreciate the support, and I do love each and every one of you. I appreciate all of the love that y'all sent over messaging. I appreciate all the love that you're sending right now. But Florida State ultimately goes down to Doak South, handles Miami. The Candy Canes couldn't handle the Seminoles. They just couldn't do it. They certainly feared the spear. We certainly did our job. Mike Norvell and staff did a great job play calling that game. It didn't really take much to win. It was pretty vanilla. We were able to pretty much do whatever we wanted to. And that's what you want to see with this Florida State team. And moving forward, we're doing hopefully even better. Hopefully we're in the college football playoffs next year, and this year is just the start of it. Everyone have a good one. Chris Frazier, the host of Spearatics by Sideline Sports.